With Labour, Ontario has passed sweeping labour reforms that will raise minimum wage to $15 an hour in 2019. Minimum wage currently sits at $11.60 an hour and will rise to $14 on January 1st. The plan has been widely popular with government polling and labour advocates, but it's proven to be very controversial for businesses who claim the increase is too sudden and will lead to job losses. The legislation also mandates equal pay for part-time workers, increases to vacation entitlements, and expands personal emergency leave.
Ontario's minimum wage is officially going up. The provincial government's bill passed at Queen's Park, meaning minimum wage will jump to $14 in January. A year after that, another hike to $15. As Linda Ward explains, that sparked a moment of celebration.
There were hugs and handshakes in the legislature this morning when Bill 148 passed, hiking the minimum wage to $14 an hour on January 1st, $15 an hour a year later. Labour Minister Kevin Flynn says it's going to help Ontarians make ends meet.
Well, there was people struggling, working 2 and 3 temporary jobs, trying to cobble together 35, 40 hours a week, and they just weren't earning enough to pay their basics. They put in the work, they put in the hours. Now they can at least pay for the basics.
The bill also includes sick days for nearly all workers in the province, and it mandates equal pay for both full and part-time workers. But the opposition Progressive Conservatives voted against the bill, saying it's going to slow the economy, drive costs up for consumers, and it could cost tens of thousands of jobs.
We're going to make sure that we do what we can to protect those jobs, because regardless of what the wage is, if you haven't got a job, your wage is zero.
We spoke with some small business owners in Toronto about what this bill really will mean for them and their bottom line.
It's not a huge change. It's doable. If you have good employees, they're more than likely worth it. But you do have to think about the hours and the schedule, and but it's not an unreasonable amount of money to be earning, certainly.
For me, it's like I can't sometimes pay to myself. Right? And if I have to pay somebody, it's rather I close the business.
Well, Flynn says if Ontarians make more money, they'll spend more money at those big businesses. But the opposition says this is Premier Kathleen Wynne trying to win more votes ahead of the next election. A rally outside of Queen's Park this afternoon by the Labour movement shows she may be getting some support from that sector, but critics say it may come at a cost of votes and donations from big business. Linda Ward, CBC News, Toronto.
You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at 5:30.
The Wynne Liberals have passed legislation that will increase Ontario's minimum wage to $15 an hour. The Fair Workplaces, Better Jobs Act passed with the Liberals and NDP voting in favour. The Progressive Conservatives opposed. The new law increases minimum wage to $14 from its current level of $11.60 on January 1st of 2018. Then in 2019, it goes up to $15. The Conservatives have vowed to delay that last increase if that party wins power in next June's Ontario election.
You're watching Global Toronto. This is Global News at 6.
A big vote today at Queen's Park.
All those in favor, please rise one at a time, be recognized by the clerk.
Mr. Flynn. Mr. Flynn. Mr. Nappy. Mr. Brad. Mr. Brad.
And with that, the Ontario government passed sweeping new labour reforms that Kathleen Wynne says is going to make Ontario fairer, but the opposition says it will cost jobs. Here are the main highlights of the so-called Fair Workplaces, Better Jobs Act. The big one is a hike in minimum wage, hitting $15 an hour in 2019. Every worker in Ontario will be entitled to 10 days of sick leave, including 2 paid days. And part-time workers will have to be paid at the same rate as full-time workers doing the same job. Now, those are significant changes, but it's the increase to minimum wage that is most controversial. The big jump comes January 1st of next year, when it goes to $14 an hour from the current $11.60.
Problem is you can't live in Ontario on $11.60 an hour if you've got to pay rent and buy food and groceries and kids' clothes and everything else that goes along with raising a family.
Now, a number of economists, including the Financial Accountability Officer, a provincial watchdog, have predicted job losses as a result of the minimum wage increase. The FAO predicting 50,000 job losses, while grocery giant Loblaw said it's going to have to look to cut costs and possibly employees in order to not raise prices because of the increase in its labor costs. Now, the Liberals call those numbers overblown. But depending what happens next June when Ontario goes to the polls, that final increase to $15 an hour for minimum wage, that's not guaranteed.
Mr. Yakubuski. Mr. Yakubuski. Mr. Arnott. Mr. Arnott.
Back to that vote in the legislature today, the opposition PCs voted against the Labour bill. Plus, they say if the party wins power in 2018, they will delay the final dollar increase to minimum wage until 2022.
We're going to make sure that we do what we can to protect those jobs, because regardless of what the wage is, if you haven't got a job, your wage is zero.
Now, the Labour bill is now law, but the fight over minimum wage is just beginning. Expected to be a major factor next year and into the election campaign. You know, the results of this vote at Queen's Park, a foregone conclusion. What happens next year is anyone's guess.